6:30. All right, I'd like to call to order the Board of Education Finance Committee meeting for Monday, July 15th, 2024. Welcome, everyone. Do we have any public comment tonight? Seeing or hearing none, move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes from our June 10th, 2024 meeting. Bonnie, did you receive any corrections? No. Does anyone have any now? All right, with that, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, the minutes pass. Item number 4, discussion and consideration. We have the 2024-2025 preliminary education fund budget. Todd?
I like how you emphasize the word fun. So tonight here with me is Pedro Ramirez. He is the new Assistant Director of Business Services. He's taking Josie Marshall's position in our district. So he's here tonight to observe the finance committee. So welcome. And this is the fiscal year 2024-2025 preliminary education fund budget. It runs from July 1st of 2024 through June 30th of 2025. So just a little bit about the process. So this is the last of the preliminary budgets that I'll bring before the finance committee and the board. And then we'll also see after this a draft where I put all the pieces together. And then from there I'll move on to next month with a tentative, and then we'll move on to sort of the final that I'll ask the board to approve. Is that working?
Yeah, it seemed like. I thought the same thing.
Phil Donahue.
Phil Donahue. Adrian, you know who Phil
Who's that?
Donahue is? We're all old. He's not.
All right, so these are some of the assumptions that I've built into tonight's presentation. Revenues are estimated for the education fund at $78,974,812. So a little bit about the economy. At this point, it's fairly stable. We watch it every month with the CPI and trending with inflation. So we anticipate this budget looking at about 3% increase in the EAV and our local taxes as we enter into December, which is where we'll pass our levy, and that hits 2 fiscal years. Evidence-based funding has been stable at $4,321,713. Our new construction, we have trended typically about $15 million in our typical revenue estimations. We've had a good investment income, and we've maintained our fund balances that we've needed for transfers to support our capital plan. The expenditures in the education preliminary fund budget, $88,447,912. You can see that the expenditure is a little higher than the revenue, and we'll be utilizing our fund balance to make many of our objectives and goals complete. Our salaries are based upon our working agreements, and I always estimate upon a full staffing, which is sometimes will become under the expenditure amounts that we anticipate. Our benefits kind of mirror what the employee has selected, and some of that ties into our pension obligations. Our purchase services are estimated upon our support agreements that we use to operate off of. Our supplies and materials, I put in a 3.4% CPI. I think the most recent month was 3.0, but that's trended up and down the last year. Our capital is our projection for equipment costs and initiatives that we need that are not part of Fund 60 or our capital projects, but those are within this fund. Our other expenses are our dues, fees, our contingencies, and our tuition. Tuition, big example of Mid-Valley or Fox Valley Career Center. And then lastly, our non-capital equipment is typically replacement and new equipment under the capital threshold. So, like the other funds, I prepared for you a 5-year summary of our local taxes other, which is our local fees minus our ad valorem taxes to get a total local taxes. The state sources, which are typically our reimbursables, our evidence-based funding, and then our federal sources, which are typically, in most recent years, a lot of our ESSER dollars to give you actuals for 2021, 21-22, 22-23, and then the current year, 23-24, is our in-progress number. So we're looking at about $82,304,446, and then coming in next year, I'd anticipate a budget of about $70,974,812. So it's going to be a little less, and there's a couple reasons why I would anticipate this fund coming in a little lower for revenue. than where we're currently trending. And I'll go into that in the presentation. So these are our benefits, same thing, 5-year totals for our salaries, benefits, purchase services, supply materials, capital, other, non-capital, and our totals. And we'll focus at the 23-24, the in progress line. And so we're looking at $79,652,646. So again, the in progress is $82 million. We're looking at about $79 million in our expenses. Keep in mind we're modified accrual, so we still have a time frame in July and August that the auditors can approve something back into the fiscal year upon their purview, which may change some of our final numbers before the audit's finalized. And then our draft budget, looking at that $88 million is where we need to be to cover all the requirements for our district to operate this year. So a little bit different numbers, and we're usually pretty close with more of a break-even budget. Be a little different this year. We've accumulated quite a bit of fund balance that we'll be utilizing, and some other things that happened this year that we can go into some more detail. So a little bit notable changes from 24-25. So typically when we look at our tax receipts that we receive in May and June, we usually anticipate either 49.5 and a 49.5 in the next year because of when those tax receipts fall, or 49, 51% receipt. This year we received 56% of our taxes, much larger number than I've ever seen in the district. And so that's required me to go back and adjust some of our revenue, which is why it looks like it's a little lower. So when those taxes hit and were paid in May, June, they became part of our fund balance, which makes things a little more different than we would normally see in a more of a balanced budget. I will note that this is the last year of our ESSER dollars. We have until the end of September to spend those. And my last look at our grants looked like we had about $23,000 left. So in years prior, we would claim maybe $1 million, $2 million. Those dollars are gone, so you'll see a change in those federal dollars. You'll see a slight decrease in our investment return. So at one time, we were getting well over 5% for our investment return on annual return, and now that's more of a 4.6 when we look farther out. So we've had a very good investment year, but I believe we'll see that trend down a little bit, so I've reduced that as well, which is why you see a reduced revenue. So we've taken advantage of the good years. Tier 4, our district is for evidence-based funding, so I anticipate no new dollars. Our salary increases are in response to a couple things. One is our agreements that we have with our employees, and the second part of that is any type of wage inflation or market adjustment that we need to make to be competitive. We're in our second year of a large increase in all types of our insurance. Is not only health, but it's property, casualty, workers' comp. Those are all up across the board. And then we also have the education fund will also be utilized to support our capital projects. And we also have just our inflation that impacts our cost of doing business. Okay, so that is the education preliminary fund and a kind of quick overview of that. Are there any questions on that fund?
Any questions?
I just have one, and this is a question, a typical question by Choi, out of ignorance. What is, you said this last year as well in terms of the tax receipts received in June. Does that mean that, what was the number, 54%?
56%.
Yeah.
So I think your question is like, what does that mean, right? How
Does that mean that 44% are not paying there?
No, it just means that they'll be paying, that we anticipate receiving 40% in our July, August, September, October timeframe.
Got
So
it.
instead of so remember when we do the levy in December, that covers taxes that are paid in one calendar year but hit 2 fiscal years. So really, the first payment, so really what it means is a lot of people made first and second installment payments, and they've kind of paid it all up front in that first time frame. So they paid June instead of, say, June and September.
Right.
So we got a lot more than we anticipated. I believe that's because a lot more people are having their taxes escrowed, and so therefore the institutions are paying those all at one time.
Sure.
So instead of a nice even split, we're getting a lot of those paid in those first months of May and June, but really it's the end of our fiscal year, so they automatically become fund balance. But that also then messes up my revenue because I would have anticipated a more smooth receipt payment across all the months that taxes are paid.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you.
So if I could comment, really not a question, but if you look at the education budget, it's significantly different than what we've ever seen before.
Yep.
Because we've never had this amount of difference between revenue and expenditures. But there's a number of things here, I think, that everybody needs to recognize. As he said, 56% of it came in, of the tax revenue came in last year. And so it doesn't show up in this year's revenue because it's already in our fund balance. So there's a significant amount. And then the other thing that we talked about is he's budgeting at 100% of FTEs. And we never run at 100% of FTEs. So the expenditures will be less, should be less. And if you look at this year's budget for what we budgeted and where we're running, it's less because there's less people. If you look at the numbers for this year versus what we budgeted, and then the income, it's not shown as revenue because it's already in our bank. Can you say that for fund balance?
Right. Yes. That does make it confusing, right? If you're
Yes.
looking at it from outside and it looks like, what's going on here? But it's like if you got your paycheck early,
Right.
right? So we got that money. Todd then can't build it into the budget as revenue because it's already there as fund balance. If it was coming in when we would have anticipated it to come in, it would have come in as revenue, and then those numbers wouldn't look so skewed.
And I think the other issue is we have a significant amount of our capital budget that was not completed last year. We already have the money in the funds balance for that, and that money is good, but you see it as an expenditure in this year because it's rolled over into this year. So when you put those three things together, it's not as bleak as it looks. Because to be honest with you, when I first saw it, I was like, whoa, what is this? And then after digging into it a little bit, I think that makes a lot more
Well, and
sense.
I think we talked about the cap plan issue a lot throughout spring, and about how a lot of those projects weren't done, so that money's getting carried over, and we're going to have to build it into this coming year's budget as expenditure. But that money's not necessarily looking like revenue in that budget, right?
All right, I think that's a good segue to the draft budget.
Okay, so taking what we've worked on to date, I've put some of the pieces together. So 24-25 draft budget, everything starts to kind of fit into place. Similar assumptions, 3% EBF, new construction, good investment income, fund balances are healthy. Our salaries are based upon staffing levels and our working agreements. Our benefits match those that the employees take by election. Many of our employees don't take those until September, so I kind of have to estimate what they are. Our purchase services support our agreements, so think of your architect, your engineer, some of the other support services that we have. Our CPI for our materials, so we add that into there. Again, our project costs, dues, fees, tuition for other expenses, and our non-capital. So looking at the education fund, we're really focusing on the fourth column on the right. That's our 24-25 budget. Again, I kind of covered this in the previous slide, but again, that was the preliminary, and now I moved on to the numbers for the draft. $78,974,812. And then looking at the totals on the bottom right for the budget, $88,447,912. The O&M fund, $15,603,232 for our revenue, as compared to our budget estimations for its expenditures of $17,031,117. So again, there we'll be using some of the fund balance. And some of that is the transfers that we'll be making to Fund 60 for capital. I take a little bit out of several of the funds to make that happen. Debt service, $14,952,111, and we'll be expending $14,877,226. In this year, our intentions are that based upon our payments, we'll be retiring one more bond, so we'll have one less going in the future years. So that should reduce some of the future need for our debt service taxation and payments. Transportation, $4,916,282 against $6,152,070. So what is the difference? That is us buying some new buses. We have accumulated those funds. As you know, we kind of got delayed on our plan that we had for our transportation and our management of that, and then this utilizes those fund balances to kind of make those purchases And those will be for like our 30-passenger buses with lifts and other things that we need. Retirement fund, $3,519,000 compared to $2,871,352. So there's quite a bit of a difference there. I'm going to go back and take a look. It's a little more revenue than I would like. We're just going to double check and make sure that we got everybody covered. And you may see that number adjusted down in one category and maybe up in the other as we get to the tentative, just because we'll have some new employees. I need to probably draw those a little closer. And keep in mind, too, when we hire an employee, it depends where they're placed on the schedule. That also has me adjust their benefits, their salary. Capital projects. Okay, so this is the one that we've been talking about. We'll be utilizing fund balance, you'll see toward the end, but we're needing $11,740,000 for revenue. That'll come from our fund balance and transfers that we do. In public hearing, we do it all in transparency, board approves, we move the money. That'll be against $15,385,000 that we'll need to cover our capital projects. As you know, we have a very big project year. Some of our projects are behind, and they all get caught up in this year. Working cash, it's just really interest income, $195,000 from investments. Our tort fund, same thing, interest income of about $400. And then our life, health, safety fund, interest income of $21,000. Keep in mind that we have significant fund balance. We had to do that because we have to levy before we do those improvements. And our budget for expenditures is $711,300. We should be completing all of those life, health, safety fund projects this year. Okay, so what does it look like all funds? I probably have a few adjustments here I have to make with some of the transfers still, but we're looking at $118,221,837 for the revenue that we'll have in all of our funds. All taxes, all local, all state, all federal. Remember, we'll be using quite a bit of fund balance, ed fund, transportation, O&M as well, and that's against our expenses in our budget, $145,475,977. As you know, it's my practice that I draw those closer. I wait till we run a couple payrolls and we have some transactions occur here in July. And traditionally, every year I've been able to close that gap a little bit, and I intend to do the same before we get to the perimeter. I know it looks like a big amount, but when you add it back in some of our interfund transfers, that'll get a little smoother and cleaner and more aligned. Okay, so opening balances are on the top. So those taxes really increased that fund balance to $89,396,961. Our revenue, $129,921,837. Our expenses, $142,975,977. And this is in our draft. Estimated ending fund balance of $76,342,821. So what do I have for areas of concern? So certainly it's an election year. We've seen high CPI. We've seen it come down quite a bit. The last chart that I looked at looks like it's trending back where it normally was several years ago. I won't say why, but you know, it's happened to us. There was a time frame when we had some turmoil. Economic and external factors are always out there. We'll respond to those. Still looking at inflation of 3.4. If I see some downward trends still, I will likely come back and adjust some of that. We do anticipate a reduced investment for opportunities. Our staffing issues could always be an issue for us. Certainly, as was mentioned, we always estimate the full-time equivalent, and if we don't get that, then that could reduce our expenditures. And then we also had some issues if we have any concerns about competitive bid processes that could affect us, or change orders, and then any project delays that we might have that are unforeseen or beyond our control. Those are all the areas of concern that I have in the budget that may change things up or down. So that was the overview of basically the draft budget that we have. Like I said, it'll get cleaned up, reviewed, analyzed a little bit more. I'll go back and take a look and see if there's any other needs that we have in the district, and I will come back with a tentative budget for the board. That's probably a little more in line. Like I said, I'll fine-tune that a little better. Questions?
All right, questions on this one?
No.
All right, yeah, I don't have any either. Thank you for putting this together. I feel like it's always budget season because it's multiple.
So does Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. Meetings. I feel like we just finished this budget and we're now talking about the new one. So.
Yes, I feel like I'm here all the time. So thank you.
Yep. All right, item 5, future agenda items, we don't have anything there. And item 6, items for recommendation to the full board. We have the 2024-25 preliminary education fund budget and the 2024-25 preliminary budget to move on to the full board. Do I have a motion to move those on?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign. All right, we'll move those on to the full board. Item 7, information legislative update. I don't have anything for this group. Dr. Barrett?
Nope.
All right. Record time today. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we are adjourned until next time. Thank you.